The spark of a great idea doesn't come from chasing money. It comes from chasing meaning. Build something you believe in, and the fire will follow. What is up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we talk about best-selling books and their best principles to help you out with your best life. I am so excited to jump into conversation today with myself, Mr. Willie Blake, as well as our other co-host, Mr. Ian Stermer, as we go into the third episode of How I Built This by Guy Raz. And today, we're going to jump into the passion. We're going to jump into the fire. We're going to jump into the topic of if something, an idea pops into your head and you just wake up in the morning, overload thinking about the ideas, and you fall asleep still thinking about it. Well, maybe you should start a business. So let's start the discussion there and see where it goes. Ian, I know you and I were talking back in the break room about this, and you're the one that actually suggested this topic. So I'm going to throw a curveball to you and just introduce the goodness gracious, the beginning of the conversation with the topic.
Yeah. So the idea of a spark. Where's that spark? Where's that interest? Where's that opportunity that comes up for us? And I'm going to start out with a story I read in high school that if somebody remembers this story or who wrote it, feel free to put it in the comments. So bear with me on that side. But I remember this short story about a guy who was a custodian at a church. And the higher ups in the church came out with a new rule that you had to have a high school diploma in order to work at the church. So this custodian got fired because he didn't have a high school diploma. So he was kind of depressed. So he started walking down this long street, and he just wanted to get some tobacco for his pipe. Figured that would relax him some and take some of that stress off. And he walked several blocks and couldn't find a tobacco shop to get tobacco for his pipe. So I thought, they should have a tobacco shop here. Now, I'm not encouraging smoking. Let's not go down there. This is just a story. So he talked to some friends. He pulled some money together and he opened up a little tobacco shop. It did so good because he was the only tobacco shop on that long street. So once it started doing pretty good, he went out for a walk again and found another long street with no tobacco shop. So he pulled his money and got a second one. And within a few years, he had a chain of tobacco shops all across. I think this took place in London. And he saw that need, a long street with no tobacco shops. So he started building them. And then the little ending of this story was somebody said, "Oh, and you had no high school diploma. Imagine what you could have done if you had a high school diploma." He said, "Yeah, I would have been a custodian at the church." That's the twist ending of it. But the idea there is, where is there a need for something? What have you been looking for and can't find? So maybe that's the first spark. And we see these things all over, especially if you go to like discount stores or watch those as seen on TV things. I remember watching two guys were sick of doing laundry and losing socks, so they invented a little button that clips your socks together when you do laundry. I don't know if they made millions, but great idea. Somebody made an idea at some point that they hated slicing bread, and they invented a bread slicer. And apparently that is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm not sure what the greatest thing before sliced bread was, but So that first thing, where's there a need? What's that thing that just bugs you that you hate doing or fails every time that you can find a solution to? Um, we've heard the saying that necessity is the mother of invention, and that is not correct. The correct way to say that is laziness is the mother of invention. Where's that thing to make life easier, faster, simpler, less stressful? That's where the inspiration comes from. And that's where these ideas that are going to make us money, make us millions, that's how we build this, according to Guy Raz. So what are these things that we're finding or seeing that there's a need for? And the problem with this book is there are so many examples throughout it that illustrate these points. So I'm going to turn the time back to you in a second, Willie, but I'm going to give one more example that I think is a great way to look at it. Sometimes it's, and this is kind of a blue ocean strategy idea, but it's not the big ideas out there. It's not the personal computer that we're going to build, but it's the guy who decided we needed a connector to connect computers to printers because IBM wasn't making them. It's Levi Strauss, who came out to be a gold digger in the gold rush in California and realized that the miners needed a store to buy stuff in. And that's where the money was. So I'm going to throw it back to you with that twist. Where are those ideas? How do we fit in to serve the big guys? How do we build a business? Because I think it was Belkin was that cable company that started at a guy's kitchen table that's now, I don't know, a really big company because I see them everywhere. They got to be in the tens of millions of dollar company. So how do we find that niche that's in between the big guys that we can build on?
Yeah, you nailed it, because it's the problems that we have that have the greatest potential of the best solutions. And those solutions come from innovative minds. It doesn't matter if you go to college or not. It doesn't, like, ideas don't care about what education you have. Ideas care about solutions. They care about what you're going to do with them. And when you think about it that way, then you start focusing on like the idea part of, is this something that's going to work? And a lot of times you just got to try it. Sometimes you just got to try it to a prototype. Sometimes you got to tell your friends and get it out there. And other times you got to put in massive action to create a big business to get it out there. Like, there are so many different examples of, well, if you actually think about it, anything in our house, anything anywhere used to be an idea. Because I don't think that most of the things in our house existed back in the caveman days, right? So throughout time, there have been progressions of ideas of people thinking outside the box, thinking of, I have this problem, and it happens a lot, and my friends also have this problem, and it happens a lot. So maybe let's create a solution for it, because maybe it's just not me and my friends, but everyone else in the world also having that problem. And just asking that question and thinking about like what problems you have that you want to solve really creates the innovation for ideas and solutions to come your way. So when starting a business, when thinking about things that you're passionate about, whatnot, find problems that are going on in your life and then solve them.
Yeah, that's if you're having a problem, chances are a lot of other people are as well. For our longtime viewers here who are watching the screen, Willie and I were talking at the beginning. He has shaved his face, and I am growing mine out a little bit right now. We'll see what happens in a month or two. But one of the examples in this book was the company Bevel, who makes shaving products for African Americans. And the guy who started it realized that African American skin is prone to razor bumps. And if you've had razor bumps before, they are not fun. I'm luckily not prone to them, but I've gotten them here and there, and they're a pain. So he realized, hey, I've got this problem. Chances are some of the however many hundreds or tens or hundreds of millions of other African American men around the world probably have the same problem. So let's find a solution to it. And he came up with a solution. He, took it all over, and they said, "Oh, I don't think this is a problem," because they were a bunch of white guys who didn't have problems with razor bumps. But he knew that his problem was being faced by millions of people. He persisted, and now Bevel products are in grocery stores and department stores all across the country. I even use their shaving cream. It's a great shaving cream or shaving gel. Highly recommended. If they want to send me an endorsement money, I'll take that, but it's an unpaid endorsement. It's a great product because one guy said, "I've got a problem. This sucks. Let's find some way to get over this. Let's find a way to solve this problem." So if you have a problem, something you're facing, find the solution. And I'm going to give another example, and I'm going to call out Coach Willie for a second here. Most of you know, because he's dyslexic, because he's a dyslexic coach, and I'm having trouble saying that too. So I probably got a touch of that as well. We might need to talk later on. But you said, "Hey, I've got an issue here that I need to figure out how to solve this. I need to find out how to get on with my life and not let dyslexia hold me back. How can I turn that into my superpower?" And then you did it. So great job, first of all. And I'm gonna pull an Alex Hormozy from $100 million offers, I believe, was the book he did, where you niche down on your topic and then you ramp it up. So whether we're not going to solve laundry issues, but maybe you can solve lost socks or keeping socks together. Maybe there's a better, detergents. I've talked to a family that came up with a great organic detergent they started making out in Utah, selling it in grocery stores now, and they figured out a better way to do laundry detergents. They're selling laundry detergent. They're not doing everything else. So find that one little niche that just bugs the heck out of you. And then solve it and go sell it to other people. Because if it bugs you, I can promise you it's bugging somebody else out there. So.
Yeah. That if it bugs you, it's probably bugging everyone else. Ideas flooded into my head of these innovative ideas. Back when I first started into self-development and entrepreneurship, I had my first notebooks, and I'm about to move, so I don't have them right on me. They're packed away. But I remember the first several pages of that were just invention ideas, of which I had, it was like Willie's waffles and frozen yogurt. So it was waffles with frozen yogurt. Then there was something called the winged plate, which if any of you have been to buffets or big family reunions, and that has amazing food, you start putting everything on your plate gets too full, but then you're only halfway through the line and you still have a bunch of other great stuff to do and you don't want to pack any more on. So the winged plate is literally a plate that has like another plate attached to it that comes out, that's connected, and you rest it on your arm so that it's stable there, but then you're still able to put more food on it, right? And so these ideas kept coming to me. I'm like, oh, this is entrepreneurship. This is creating products. And they all came from problems. Like Willie's waffles and frozen yogurt. I never found a place to where you could have frozen yogurt for breakfast. When it came to buffets and overstacking the plate, this is probably more of a problem for more people than frozen yogurt. Overstacking your plate and still wanting more, that idea came from that solution. And so What was
I was
that?
saying, sounds like I need to start a diet plan for somebody after you get yours out there. There's a theme with your inventions here.
That's the thing. Yeah. Now that like I'm doing 75 hard right now and losing weight and stuff. And so that invention, I'm just like, I should sell that just to like Samoans and Tongans who just like want to eat a lot of food. Right. So that, but in all, it comes back down to what is the problem that you have, and then think of a solution for it. If I'll share one last one, which is we just talked about it, my dyslexic coaching business. And I started out just being a success coach, which is anything that if you want success, I'm there for you. It was so broad, so broad. Then I'm like, empowerment coach, still so broad. And then you and I had a conversation several years back talking about, you mentioned dyslexia. I'm like, you have a lot of experience with dyslexia. What if you just help individuals who are dyslexic? And then I was the dyslexic coach. And then I niched it down even more to helping out with just achievements for adults and achieving their goals. Then niche that down to be like high performance and career coach for adults who want to level up or advance in their careers. And so it's like the niche kept going down, but that was like a 5-year span. And so now I'm just like, I have so much clarity in what I'm doing. I can talk to the person and be like, this is what I do. Whereas before, a couple of years before that, it's just like, yeah, I help everybody become successful. If your audience is everybody, if your product serves everybody, you're not gonna sell too much, because people want the right solutions to the right problems, not what are those tools that
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, that has like the screwdriver, the knife, the flashlight. Yeah, those are great, but the best tools are the ones that are pick a single thing that they help with, and do everything else with.
Yeah, and I think that's a key to it is the more you niche down, the more you specialize in something, the more people are going to be drawn to that. I think everything I guess that's part of branding. I heard a great one for Walmart or Target recently. It's Walmart is when you're too cheap to go to Target, or Target is spending a little more money so you don't have to go to Walmart. Walmart's branding is low prices so you can have more stuff. Target's branding is, hey, we're a little better than Walmart, so come here instead. There's a market for everything. But when you find that one special area, Kentucky Fried Chicken was chicken. They don't make hamburgers. Well, I guess they've tied in with A&W sometimes, but
Right.
you go there for chicken. If you're in a mood for a certain kind of food, there's a restaurant that specializes in that food you want to go to. That's probably not the example I wanted to go to. I'm going to go with what I thought earlier. If you have a heart problem, you don't go to a general doctor. You go to a heart specialist. And you're going to look for the one who knows the most about that specific problem. If you're trying to become more successful in your life and you realize that dyslexia is probably the biggest factor that's affecting that, then you don't go to a coach about colorblindness. You go to a coach about dyslexia. Sorry, my phone went off there. We can edit that out later on.
That was the dyslexic calling, being like, Ian, you are so right. We need to find this, right?
Right. Yeah.
Destiny's calling.
Yeah. So you kind of talked about how you were thinking of businesses. Now that's a hobby I have. Kind of stems from the Japanese meditation technique called a koan, which they call as an unsolvable riddle. And the famous one is, what is the sound of one hand clapping? But for me, I'd like to sit there and say, what's a business I could start? Where is there a need that I think there's a business? And then I just honestly daydream about it for days to say, okay, will this work? How would it grow? How does the money fit in? You know, I'll share one of mine. If somebody is out there, they're welcome to start this and send me some royalty checks later on. But I worked in hotels. People would check in late at night and they would forget things that we didn't have in the hotel. Sure, we got our toothbrush and a razor, but we don't have a suit and tie. We don't have a dress. So what if you had a van stocked with a bunch of different sizes of dress clothes and other things that people may have just realized they forgot? The idea came to me. I worked in a hotel, and late at night, a guy checked in and he needed cufflinks at 11:30 at night. Well, there's no store open by 7 o'clock the next morning to get him cufflinks. Okay, yeah, you could just put those in a van and park it in downtown San Francisco or Manhattan, and drive it to whatever hotel needs something, and you got a set of white shirts that are ironed, hanging up in different sizes to hand over. So there's probably some need for that if there was enough hotels in a close enough area. Now, do I have a passion for sitting in a truck overnight, waiting to drive from one place to another? Not really. Do other people? Probably somebody does. Somebody that loves clothes, somebody that loves to be in the truck by themselves, listening to books on tapes, or better yet, YouTube channels like My Champion Circle is a great way to spend the night as you're going along. So where is that? I'm getting long-winded, but I'll turn it over here. Where's that spark of an idea that matches up with a passion that you have? Whether it's a passion for creating things or it's a passion for the topic itself. There was another example in the book Guy Raz talked about with a lady who started a skincare line because she just loved making like hand lotions. She was so passionate about it that she realized she had to turn into a business because that was all she thought about. She found a need for her products because they were specialized. She had a passion for it, and it turned into a really big company that I don't remember the name, but it's like a Jessica and Me or Alicia and Me or something like that. Again, if any listeners know, put it in the comments, or if you remember that one, Willie.
Not off the top of my head.
That's the problem with all these things. The names escape me now as I go through this. I need to have the book in front of me and be flipping through as we're doing these. Yeah. Next video.
Yeah, next video we'll have the book in front of us. Yeah. It's you bring up such a good point because this episode we've talked a lot about innovation, about ideas, and about finding the problem and then creating a solution for it. But one thing that you just brought up that we haven't touched too much on is the passion behind it. Like if you love something and it's something that creates a solution for people, do it. But if you come up with the ideas and then it's just like, well, I don't really want to do that. Like it's a great idea, but I really don't want to do that. That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to do it. And maybe it's something that you'll do 5-10 years from now. But that's okay. Just like Willie's waffles and frozen yogurt. That's something I'm just like, that sounds like such a great idea to have a place for breakfast with frozen yogurt. But I don't want to be standing behind the counter day in and day out to do that. I like socializing. I like talking to people and teaching them stuff. And so if the idea doesn't fit what you're doing, that's fine. Put it in a notebook. Put it somewhere for you to view later. Realize that ideas come not in perfection. And so maybe the idea that's going to stick is the 1,532 or 32nd idea that pops into your head. But you got to circle through over 1,000 ideas before you get there. And so starting to get into a practice, that's something I love doing when it comes to like ideas and stuff, because it's where I've created different courses and trainings. It's where these ideas of what I do for like webinars come up. It's have a journal, a notepad, whatever it is, and write down ideas that come to your mind. However dumb they may seem, just write them down. Write them down. And then after a week, after a month, look at all the ideas you have, and you can be like, well, that one's not too good. That one's not too good. But maybe one out of the 100 ideas you write down is just like, that is a genius idea. And then start implementing with it. So I guess the call to action, I guess, is put these ideas on paper. Get them out of your mind. Don't just let them sit in there. Because, Ian, I think you and I both know that as we've read these books and as we read many books, knowledge that stays in our mind is you're sitting at the same level as someone who doesn't read. Simply because you got to take the action with it. You got to start implementing it.
Absolutely. I kick myself because I think of ideas that I don't ever take steps on. And if I had done that, my dad many years ago said, oh, he thought of an idea that what if, a TV set, the old cathode rays projected onto the glass. What if you just put the projector a few feet away from it and project it onto a screen that way? And then a few years later, this is well before your time, but the first big screen TVs were set up with 3 lenses that projected onto a screen about 3 feet away from it. And he's saying, I thought of that. Now, he didn't have the technological background to actually be able to design that. But the idea was there. There's so many ideas. There's so many little things. There's an old saying, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. People want something just a little bit easier, a little bit faster, a little bit less effort on their part. And there's ideas out there. Write those down. Worst case, you can publish a book of business ideas. I see those in stores all the time. 100 businesses you can start from home. Put together IKEA furniture. I would pay somebody for that because that stuff is a pain to put together.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, it comes down to we all have a frustration. And, if nothing else, write down your frustrations because you may find something that's just a simpler way to do it. It doesn't have to be something monumental. One of my favorite inventions recently, and I don't know if one company's made a lot of money, but little rubber pads that you use to open jars. Whoever came up with that was a genius. And hopefully they made a lot of money because it has saved me so much effort and frustration and allowed me to eat a whole lot more pickles than I would have otherwise. And pickles are a really good snack for losing weight, by the way, because they're so low in calories. Just a little tip for any listeners out there who might be trying to lose weight.
Yeah, not this listener. I just don't. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. Pickles are great for other people.
Well, if you only eat foods you don't like, that's also a good way to not eat as much.
That's true.
Not a fun way.
I guess that's true. And as we wrap up this episode, I want us to think about what the journey that we've taken on our own self-development, the journeys we've taken with our own business, and think about if we were to stand in front of a classroom full of freshman college students who are in an entrepreneurship course, and they are all just very excited, ready to go, but don't know what to do or what advice to be able to receive. I want us to think of what's one thing that we would tell them. Just one thing. And I'll start out so that I give you some time to think about it.
Yeah.
If I was standing in front of a classroom of entrepreneurs and sharing the my thing with them. I think the biggest thing that I would share is that hard work beats lazy talent, because it is about the imperfect movements that we move forward with that are going to beat the entitled talents that we think that we have. We might be an individual might be very skilled, might be one of the most amazing individuals with hard and soft skills and communication and everything. But if they just sit on a couch not doing anything, nothing's going to be created. But it's the ones that get out there, that learn, that adapt, that make mistakes but fail and fail forward and fail fast. Those are the ones that create the big things. So I know for myself, I would say hard work always beats lazy action.
Definitely. And that fits in a lot what I was thinking. Do it is the first thing. I think the greatest novel ever was never written because somebody didn't write down. The best song ever, somebody had in their head and never wrote it down and never sang it or never played it, and no one knows about it. If you don't do it, it's not there. It's like the fish that got away. It doesn't matter how big the fish you saw swim through the water was. If you didn't catch it, you didn't catch it. It doesn't count. So love that. I'm going to add a different side to it for mine. Look for the pain, because people will pay to reduce pain. They will pay to reduce pain more than they will pay to gain comfort. They will pay to run away from pain. So what is that thing that just bugs the heck out of you? And can you find a way to reduce that pain? And then doesn't do any good to leave it in your head. You got to go out and do it. You got to, until the foot hits the pavement, until the hand knocks on the door, you pick up the phone, you build the prototype. I've had an invention in my mind for years. Whoops. And just have never built my prototype to see if it'll work. And as a result, I have not made a single penny on it. And it's been frustrating to me. You got to do it. Find the pain points, find the solution that'll make it easier, and then go do it. Or else this whole podcast is a waste of everyone's time, to be honest.
Yeah, go out and do it. I think it was Gary Vee who he said if he taught an entrepreneurship class, he would spend the first couple weeks convincing them to not be in class and actually go out and start doing stuff. And then those stubborn people who would stay, then he might teach like a few things or whatnot. But he'd emphasize the get out there and start learning. And so for everyone, get out and start learning, start doing, hit that record button, pick up the phone, knock that door, whatever it is, simply just start.
Yep. So we should end this podcast so people can go out and get off their butt and go do something.
You're absolutely right. And that wraps up this episode of Champion Reads. If you found inspiration in this episode, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, as well as you can go to our website, mychampionscircle.com, where you'll have the link to the podcast, link to the socials, as well as everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Until next time, champions, continue to be awesome, continue to go out there and take action, and always remember that when it comes to building something, you just got to start building it. So go out and do it. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.